So now we're back after the international break to domestic football, and it's going to be a very interesting week for many reasons for this being the case. There's a couple of clubs that had sour tastes in the mouth, particularly the big two heading into the international break, who will be looking to correct that as quickly as possible. Some new faces that were signed on the deadline day for a lot of clubs in the league that will be looking to potentially make their mark on this match day as well, and some teams looking to continue unbeaten runs as well as potentially get some first wins on the board as well for match day 5 in the Scottish Premiership. But first of all, before we get into the predictions for it, if you are new around here, please consider checking out some of the other content on the channel. Very soon we will have the final episode of the SPFL RTG on FC25 before this time next week when FC26 will be out, or the Ultimate Edition will be anyway, and we'll be on that and continuing the road to glory for the Scottish Premiership on that game, with Falkirk and Livingston being new teams involved in it. But without further ado, let's get into the predictions for match day 5 of the Scottish Premiership. So, of the 6 fixtures taking place this weekend, 4 of them are taking place 5 of them are taking place on the Saturday, with one taking place on the Sunday. A couple of games on TV this weekend. Starting off with Aberdeen versus Livingston. Big game for a couple of reasons, of course. Aberdeen still looking not just for their first win of the season, but to get their first points on the board to get off that bottom spot, and it's not too late for them to climb a few spaces with that being the case. Of course, despite the fact that they've had a pretty poor start to the season, Aberdeen fans are pretty excited for this game because they had a really excellent deadline day in terms of getting in Kevin Nisbet back, which should potentially give them that cutting edge again up top. Stuart Armstrong on a free transfer is an excellent signing, and of course Carlson on loan from Bologna, who has been a really good player over the past few years, Swedish international as well, and arguably could get into any team in the country. So it'll be interesting to see how many of those get thrown in right away. You would think that Kevin Nisbet would be the most likely because of him knowing the manager and knowing the team. Carlson did apparently play under Jimmy Tillin in Sweden as well, so he could potentially be thrown straight in. Armstrong, don't know how much football he's played. He was a free agent, I think, so he could potentially get thrown right in or not. We'll have to wait and see. Livingston have had a bit of a okay start to the season, if you like. Couple of good results, couple of bad ones in there as well, and they will be looking to try and bounce back from a couple of defeats. In this case, though, despite the fact that Aberdeen haven't won a game yet this season in the league, I think this will be the one that they do it. Yes, they haven't won, but they have kind of produced some chances in those games that I've watched them in anyway. They just haven't had that guy up top that can stick the ball in the back of the net on a consistent basis. So I think with those guys coming in, that's going to change that, and I do believe that Aberdeen will come away 2-0 winners from this game. On to Dundee versus Motherwell. Motherwell still unbeaten, of course, but still looking for that first win. They're part of that crop of teams that are sitting on 4 draws as it stands. Dundee, bit of a stop-starty season for them at times as well. They're coming off the back of a derby defeat to Dundee United, of course. I think the style of football that Motherwell play, I think this will be their first win, though, in all honesty. I think it's been coming. They've just defensively conceded too many goals, of course, to prevent that first win from happening so far. I think this will be the occasion where it comes, and I'm going to go for a 3-1 Motherwell win in this game. On to Falkirk versus St Mirren. Falkirk, of course, getting their first win back in the top flight last match day against Aberdeen up in Pittodrie. Of course, Aberdeen did go down to 10 men in the game. St Mirren still looking for their first win of the season, despite coming close a couple of times. They've, of course, had 3 draws since the opening day defeat against Celtic. And they look capable of getting results, of course, kind of similar to Motherwell, though. Not so much the defence. Going forward, they've kind of struggled a little bit more than Motherwell have in particular. It seems like, from what I've seen from them anyway. Of course, they didn't even score a domestic league goal until the game against Rangers. So there is that. I predicted that Falkirk would do really well at home and not so well away from home in their first league win game away from home. This one I'm going to go for a draw in, though. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for this game. On to a game I'm surprised didn't get picked up for TV. It's a really interesting fixture for a whole number of reasons. Hearts, of course, had a good start to the season overall with a blip or two in there at times. A good last-minute winner against Livingston the last time out from Kizaridis. The Hearts fans clamouring for him to start. This could be a game that he starts in. Braga has had a good start to the season overall. And, of course, they're sitting joint top with Celtic on 10 points at the moment. Rangers, it's been well documented of how poor their start to the season was. The only saving grace for them, probably the fact that they have come away without a defeat in the Derby game last time out, but no shots on target. A home Derby game isn't great, coming off the back of a pumping from Brugge as well, not great. And they'll be looking to get their first domestic league win of the season 5 games in, and Hearts will be looking to try and prevent that. I've seen a stat that Hearts haven't won in the top flight at Ibrox since 2012, so it's a big task for them. They haven't beaten Rangers since 2020 as well in any capacity, so if there was ever a game that Rangers would look to win, it would be against Hearts, but Hearts fans will probably be clamouring for that not to be the case, to potentially do what Aberdeen couldn't last season and finish ahead of Rangers. It's a tough one to predict because of that. Obviously, with the starts of the season that both teams have had, you would maybe lean towards Hearts picking up the win, but the history of this fixture would suggest otherwise. There's, of course, the news that Russell Martin has decided to not include Nico Raskin in the squad, which has gone down like a lead balloon amongst Rangers fans. Maybe Miovski will get his first goal for Rangers. That Chermiti that they've signed as well, potentially he could be involved. The new centre-half, Cornelius, could maybe shore things up at the back for them. It's all ifs and buts at the moment. I'm going to play it conservative, though, and I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw in this game. On to Hibs versus Dundee United. Should be a really good game, and I think with the kick-off time, I haven't confirmed it yet, but I think it's on Premier Sports, this one, for a 5:45 kick-off. Hibs, of course, have had a bit of a up and down season on their behalf as well. They had a game postponed, so they could be higher up in the table than they already are. Dundee United, of course, have the game postponed as well, thanks to the playoffs in Europe for Aberdeen and Hibs. And Hibs, of course, putting in really good performances overall in Europe, but then conceding really late on. Dundee United, coming off the back of a Derby win. For them, they'll be particularly confident. They've had some injury troubles as well. They, of course, were unlucky against Rapid Vienna in Europe too. So this should be a really entertaining game of football, you would imagine. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in this game, though, similar to some other games this season that Hibs have had in terms of going 2-0 up against Kilmarnock and drawing. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in this game. Should be entertaining. I'm looking forward to watching it, and I'll be doing a reaction on it on the channel as well. And on to our Sunday game, our only Sunday game, and they've kept it as a late kick-off on 3 o'clock on the Sunday, which is a shame. I like the games to be earlier on the Sunday. I will be, of course, reacting to this on the channel as well, with it being on Sky Sports. We have Kilmarnock, who are in that crop of teams who have got 4 draws to their name in the opening 4 games, and we have Celtic, who are joint top of the league, and their 100% record went away after the really poor Derby game last time out. There's a lot of toxicity surrounding Celtic fans and the board in particular heading into this game. There's the protest that the Celtic fans won't enter the ground until the 12th minute. So with all of that being said, you would imagine that Kilmarnock will be looking to take advantage of that if possible. So you could absolutely see Kilmarnock picking up a point or even 3 from this game. However, it could go the absolute opposite way, and Celtic could bounce back from this international break and potentially just sweep Kilmarnock aside, or it could just be a really cagey affair where Celtic have struggled up top at times this season, but of course on deadline day and afterwards, actually, we have Kelechi Iheanacho, who's been signed, who on paper under Brendan Rodgers was a good player but has struggled of late. There was sort of questions around his fitness, but those seem to have been quashed with some fitness videos. You can only judge a player by how well they play on the park. There's the wingers that have been signed as well that potentially could have an impact. So there's again a few ifs, ands or buts at this stage. With that being the case, Kilmarnock at home has been a notoriously difficult venue for Celtic over the years. So there's a lot of stuff at play there. I think it will come down to the first 15 minutes and if we've got a goal in that kind of period. I'm going to back Celtic to win though. And I'm going to back a 2-1 Celtic win in this case. That's going to do it for the predictions for match day 5 of the Scottish Premiership. You could agree with what I've said or disagree with it, absolutely. But it is a prediction video after all. It's not a spoiler, is it? Thank you very much. If you are new around here, please consider checking out some of the other content on the channel. And I'll catch you in the next one.